All right, we are live here. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon to everyone, to all our listeners, wherever you are. This is our preview from FPL Under the Radar for double game, kind of double and blank game week 27. I'm here with my buddies, FPL Wrangler and ZD. How are you doing, Wrangler?
I'm doing good. How are you, Captain?
Doing good. I mean, yeah, the Salah triple cap thing. So I did not. I know you did not either. ZD, you did. You must be happy with all the points, massive points. But yeah, how are you feeling with all the Salah triple captain points?
Yeah, I was hoping for one more goal, his hat trick, and
You're too
100
greedy, man.
points,
Too greedy.
100 points from a single player, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of dream, but still, yeah, very very happy because I was expecting kind of this point. I mean, which is actually I would say more than expecting point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're pretty happy.
Yeah, yeah. Leeds were just super poor, right? So I think Wrangler, you were telling like the Liverpool has an XG of 5+5.1 or something.
5.11. Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly they could have scored a lot more. Salah could have easily come out with like four goals easily, even apart from the penalties. So, but anyway, so I would say we are lucky. The non-triple captainers could have been a lot worse. And of course, we'll talk about it a little more maybe when we are talking about the other things, why we wildcarded, because in our last video, we did not talk about wildcard at all. We are not planning to. It was kind of a Saturday morning to night decision, evening decision, where we decided that we want to wildcard. At least I and Wrangler did. But we'll talk about it. Again,
I'm I'm happy
yeah.
that you guys at least captained.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and also like whenever we did our last video, we did. I mean, the double game week announcement was not there at that moment, right? So we didn't think
Correct.
about it, but it came later, so we had to change our
Yeah,
plans.
things change like as it has for other game weeks also, like late change in schedule and fixtures did change our plans before in other game weeks and this game week too. But yeah, so let's get into it. So we'll be talking about the fixtures kind of in the long run and in the short run, what's coming in for 27 and beyond. We'll talk about players to target for game week 27. We'll try to cover for free hitters and non-free hitters to some extent as well. We'll talk about free hit drafts, what we are looking at, kind of the template free hits. We'll talk about those. And of course, we'll talk about captaincy, and we will end with our team selection. Uh, so, first of all, as we always do, looking at Ben's fixture map. So, as we were saying, so 27 is blank for three teams: Chelsea, Liverpool, and Arsenal. Leicester City were also supposed to blank, but now they have a game week with Burnley. So that means Burnley is doubling this game week. So they are the only team that doubles this game week. All the other 16 teams have one fixtures each. And beyond 28, so as we kind of, well, actually, we did not talk about it in the video because the fixtures were released on Saturday. So there are six more schedules that were kind of put into 28 and 29, three each, three in 28 and three in 29. So a lot of teams that did double in 26 also double in 28 and 29. I think the only team that doubles in 28 and 29 is Newcastle, if I'm not wrong. So that's but again, that all of that news came in for us kind of Saturday morning. We did not know before that, and then that kind of eluded us to kind of change our cheap plans a little bit, right? The situation our team was in, we thought that if we wildcard in 26, that prepares us well for 28 and 29 and 30, which is a big blank game week. So some of the teams that do blank in 30 also double in 28 and 29, right? So that essentially I would say was the biggest kind of ticker for us that okay, wildcard makes sense, right? Wrangler, you want to add anything to that, like why you wildcarded?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, right? So basically, 28 and 29, there is a like big double game announcement, right? And those who are blanking in th- uh, well, those who are playing in 30, they were having like double game week in 28, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And also Arsenal in 29. So after the double game week announcement, I was thinking if I would like to be like with or kind of like maintain the like pace with other manager.
Mhm.
My team was in a shape that I have to take lots of hits, minus 16 or minus 20, to keep up, and which I didn't want that, right? So what I thought, okay, let's play wildcard, and that will allow me to attack the 27 fixture as well, like fixtures 27, because that's where Liverpool is not playing, right, and Arsenal is not playing. I want them as well because they are doubling in 28 29,
Mhm.
while like Wolves, Norwich, they are also doubling in 28, and they are playing in 30 as well, right? So that gives me a very good opportunity to attack the fixture, recent fixture. Yes, there is a a disadvantage that I will be out of most of my chips, because right now the way I'm set up right now is 27 free hit, and then if like right now 28, I'm planning to have a bench boost because I already have 8 double uh, gaming players, and if Arsenal doubles again in 28, I will have 11 double gaming players, and then I have Kane and triple Liverpool, right? So I
Decent
can
bench, very decent bench. Yeah.
very decent bench for bench boosting. I can
Mhm.
do a triple captain Salah in 29 because Liverpool has double game week, right? And I can again, since I am very much loaded with the Wolves, Arsenal, and those are playing in 30, I can
Mhm.
avoid the 30 free hit as well, right? So
Correct.
that was the plan, right? I mean, I thought the team I had, it was in a very bad shape. I had triple Watford, I had Martinelli, I had Livramento, as you guys know, right? So although some of them gave return, but I thought to get rid of, and Ben Davies I had, right? So
Yeah.
I thought it was a good. I mean, yeah, I didn't get the triple captain, but the players I chose, I mean, at least they covered pretty well, I think, and we'll see how it goes. So that
Yeah,
was the.
I think it's hard to judge the wild card only by 26 points, right? Game week 26 point. We'll have to see for next 2, 3, 4 game weeks, up to 30 maybe, and then judge what could
Right.
was wild card better or would triple captain have been better. And it could go either ways, to be honest, right?
Mhm.
So, but we'll see. And by 28 or 29, most people will have similar teams anyways, because people will be bringing
Right.
in players to target 28 double and 29 doubles. So Akib is here. Hello, Akib. Akib is saying he could not make 150, but he was close. So I know he bench boosted and he did pretty well with Brownhill 16 pointer. Lucky guy. But yeah, well done. So I mean, that's one thing, right? So there are many different ways to play the game. It's not just one cheap strategy for everyone, and it works for everyone. So congrats, Akib. So another thing that I wanted to add to the wildcard discussion is that some of these doubles were supposed to be placed beyond game week 30. That was the original kind of schedule we were hearing about. But some of this being pulled ahead of 30 reduces the number of doubles after 30, right? So all of us were thinking about wildcarding after 30 sometime between 31 to 34, 35, something in that period. But now that some of those doubles are already scheduled before 30, that allows us to target those better wildcarding, right? So that was another reason that kind of influenced us to wildcard. But yeah, just wanted to add that. Um, Anything else, guys, on the
You want to
fixture?
hear from ZD, like what he
Yeah,
did, he told, I mean, his thought process.
yeah. So you full captain ZD, right? So what is your chip strategy for the upcoming weeks, and what is your thought process right now?
So I mean, after announcement, yeah, there are lots of games being added, but I was stick to my plan because I thought Salah versus Leeds and Norwich at home, there's
Mhm.
the best opportunity to play the triple captainship. So I wanted to do that, but I did not have like actually I was planning to play free hit from the beginning. Not from the beginning means like probably 2 3 weeks ago, and I did not wanted to play free hit on 30, and I already had actually I think one Arsenal asset, and I was planning to get two more Arsenal assets. So
Mhm.
actually the announcement, it I was actually prepared to take some minus hits from the beginning, like before the announcement. So actually, I just went through that process. Like I will take some minus because I thought like as fixtures are being added, and I am actually removing some single fixtures player, and or I don't like them, like or like low ceiling player. I will take like high ceiling player. Like I took Van Dijk, Gabriel, Saka, and Salah. So I thought probably minus 12 will be
It is
actually
definitely is, right? It already
a,
is worth it. Yeah.
yeah. So and I was making some calculation like I'll take some -8 in the future. Like, am I gaining on from my current team? My thought process was that, and my always plan. I also talked about it. My planning was like I wanted to make my team dead end at 30 and play wild card at 31.
Hmm.
So still that my plan is that I am planning to play wild card on 31st and bench boost 36. If so it would be I am hoping that I will get a scenario like which team are going to play, and try to get like 15 doubler. And
Hmm.
I'm playing free hit this week, and probably 30 in 33 I'm going to play another free hit chips. So I actually I, I decided to stick with my original plan, and in the process with this double game week I thought, okay, I'm investing -20, but it will eventually give me some uh,
Payback. Yeah.
the payback. I just thought
Mm-hmm.
in that way, like how much I'm gaining, because I thought like, okay, Salah might give me 20 to 25 points. Actually, I was expecting that
Mm-hmm.
because I mean this is the best pictures to target. So, uh, and I was not thinking that my -12 is towards Salah. My -12 is like other players, and that's why I was very happy today when Van Dijk scored.
Yeah.
But that is like a long term. Like Van Dijk, I now I am getting like 5 games from 3 weeks, right? So that's how I thought. That's why I did not think about actually playing
No,
wildcard.
absolutely. Yeah. 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 All right. So let's move on. Thank you, ZD. For Game Week 27, and as we said previously, so there are three teams blanking and Burnley doubling. Uh, Target fixtures are potentially Southampton, Norwich to some extent. Spurs leads. Of course, Spurs played pretty poorly today against Burnley. Uh, Man United, Watford. Man United at home. Good fixture to target. Everton, Man City. And again, a lot of us don't have Man City players anymore, or not as many at least, especially given how the fixtures were in the last few game weeks. A lot of us got rid of the Man City players. So good fixture to target. Uh, Good for those that held on to the Man City assets, of course. Um, yeah, and then of course Burnley has their double against Leicester at home, and then Crystal Palace away. So that's essentially pretty much the focus fixtures for this week. Anything to add specifically, ZD or Angler, for the fixtures in 27?
No, I think we can move on. Nothing to add.
Okay. Okay. All right. So next, we'll talk about, although we are uh, calling it out as free hit 27 target attackers, and we'll talk about it a little more, what can non-free hitters do or what non-free hitters targets should be. But essentially, this can cover both free hitters and non-free hitters to some extent. And again, please chime in, guys. But essentially, for this game week, and please look at ZD's thread that he did on Twitter, kind of the teams to target and at high level what are who are the players to target for 27, mostly on free hit, but again applies for non-free hitters to some extent. So we are on this one. We are mostly looking at Burnley, Man City, Manchester United, Southampton, and Tottenham assets, attacking assets. So it's kind of evident that Kane and Son, at least underlying stats, have been pretty good under Conte in the recent few game weeks. Not always has materialized, especially for Kane, but he did pretty well in the first match in this double game week against Man City. Uh, Son has been doing pretty well throughout the season, and his numbers still look pretty good. So from a non-free hitting standpoint, either whether you are kind of dead ending this week, or whether or not you are wildcarding in 28, Tottenham's long-term fixtures are pretty good. They're long-term holds, right? So even whenever you plan to wildcard, or if you have used wildcard or not, uh, Tottenham's attackers are a good option to get in, both Kane and Son. And they play Leeds, and we spoke about it how bad Leeds were against Liverpool. And Leeds are actually the worst defense from an XG considered standpoint in the last 10 game weeks in the whole league. So it's a very good fixture to target. And then for the long term, also, they are good long term holds. Anything to add on the Tottenham assets, Wrangler?
Yeah, so they are playing Leeds in 27, and again they are playing Everton in 28. So that's also a good fixture. And in 29 they
Short
are
term,
doubling,
yeah.
right? So even short term they have a very good fixture run, and long term as well, as you mentioned. So
Right.
uh, free hitters, whoever free hitting Son and Kane definitely will be in all of their team. I'm kind of, it's kind of guaranteed.
Mhm.
But if you're not a non-free hitter, I think you can think of bringing one of them if others are taken care of, because again it's going to be good, uh, not only like short term but long term as well, and they're
Right.
doubling and the picture looks good. So I think
Yep.
this would be um,
Absolutely. Um, as for the Man United assets, again, their underlying is very good, especially over the last 4 or 5 game weeks. They look very, very good. Uh, Again, it hasn't quite materialized, not scoring a lot of goals, but their underlying is very good. Again, they, I think, scored 4 against Leeds, right? If I'm not wrong. So it's kind of starting to get there. As long as their finishing is good, I think from an attacking perspective, they look very, very good. Both, not both, I would say all of Fernandez, Ronaldo, Rashford, and Sancho, even Elanga, when he plays, he has very good underlying numbers. For free hitters, of course, I would guess Fernandez and Sancho will be better targets, especially given that Ronaldo played the whole match today in UCL. Their match is in like 2 days, so less than 72 hours of rest. So I just don't see Ronaldo starting. I mean, he still might, especially if Cavani is not fit yet. But it'll be, I think it's kind of unlikely that Ronaldo will start in that match. So for free hitters, definitely biggest targets are going to be Fernandez and to some extent Sancho, who has looked very good, pretty much as good as he was in Dortmund, right? So he looks in terrific form, especially with the new formation. It just suits him, that winger role. Um, and of course, Elanga at a cheap price, if you have that bench spot on a free hit, and I think he's at 4.8 million. Why not? If you have that third spot, but most likely a non-playing option because he's a minute risk, so you don't want to take that chance on a free hit. Anything to add, Wrangler or ZD? I know Wrangler, you are a Manu supporter, so anything specific that you want to talk about on the Manu attackers?
No, I think as you covered, right? I mean, Ronaldo is a good shout, but first of all, minutes risk, and secondly, even if he plays, right, Bruno you can get at a cheaper price, right? Or even Sancho has been in very good form, right? So
Hmm.
the thing is, like you have to maximize the point, right? Now, if you take, say, I mean, we talked already about Kane, right? Now, if you again take another premium like 12.5 with Ronaldo, then you have to kind of see how your team, like like if it like balance out or not, right? So
Right.
that thing you have to think. But I think Ronaldo is a good shout too. But probably Bruno or Sancho would be better in order to make your team, more like, I think, like which will have more upside. I think so. That's just. I By
Mm.
the way, I actually have Elanga in my free hit team.
Yeah, yeah. Why
Definitely,
not?
but yeah, why
Yeah.
not? Exactly, right. So yeah.
ZD, anything to add on Manu or Spurs?
Uh, no, I think you guys covered well. I think Bruno is going to be definitely popular, and next is Sancho. Ronaldo, I mean, the kind of form he's in, and also there is a chance of rotating, so it's difficult to go over there actually in
Right.
fate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for non-free hitters, Man U players are probably not a good buy. Their fixtures turned pretty bad starting game of 28. So I wouldn't go there. So again, like if you have the fund to go to a premium attacker, Kane and Son should be priority over Ronaldo or a Bruno for non-free hitters. Again, if you are dead ending, maybe yes, get a Bruno in because again he's still very highly owned. His EO should be pretty high in 27. But if you're not dead ending, you want to uh, keep those players. They're probably not the best buy. All right,
I think
so
some people already have probably Ronaldo and Bruno for a specific this game.
mhm.
They can hold. I mean, rather
Yeah, I
than
mean,
probably
absolutely. If someone
sideways
has
switch.
them, yes, absolutely, yes. Yeah, absolutely. There is no point of transferring them out before the Watford game.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Um, Man City will cover in the next slide, so I don't want to spend time on that. We'll just save some time there. Southampton is easy. So I guess there are pretty obvious two options. Either we go for Broha or we go for James Ward-Prowse, who has penalties, free kicks, and corners, all pretty much all the set pieces, and he's very involved in attack. And then there is Broha, whose numbers don't look that good. His kind of point for XGI, decent, not bad, nothing terrible. But again, kind of you need to make that decision based on what structure or what formation you go to, and we'll talk about some of the drafts. It'll probably come up there. Uh, but both of them are decent picks. Again, Norwich has improved defensively in the recent weeks, but against a good attacking side, they can fail too. We have seen that against Man City and Liverpool, right? So, and Southampton is a good attacking side, right? Um, so yeah, so any pointer on that over what
Yeah, one
pros
thing, like,
versus Broha?
again, like, I don't want to talk about like Grass FC or Analytic FC, but if you see this plot, right? I mean, if you see it's a slope, right?
Hmm.
Like the top, if you have a slope over there, like from Mahrez to Son, right? The players we have been talking about, those actually fall into that line, right?
Hmm.
And I mean, basically, statistics talk about it sometimes. Like, I mean,
Yep.
basically, you cannot ignore that, right? Son, Fernandez, Ronaldo, Rashford. Well, Rashford sometimes, we are not thinking about it, but again, Sancho, Kane, Sterling, Mahrez, right? All of
Hmm.
them, right? And just to kind of tell people that there is a reason for that. Those people have like huge upside, and statistically, from all of them actually
Hmm.
are evident, and those will be the attackers, especially like the target in this
Right.
7. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, okay, the only other team that we would probably want to talk about here is Burnley, because the only reason we're talking about is because they're doubling. Weghorst did pretty well in game week 26, the first game at least. Um, Today, Burnley as a team overall played well, but Weghorst was not at all involved. We were looking at the XG map a few minutes ago, and it was basically all Rodriguez and Ben Mee, right? So there was nothing. Weghorst was like zero involvement in attacks. He is very good at holding balls, but he was not very good at attacking from an attacking perspective. But he is going to be very highly owned within free hitters and within non-free hitters. So I think he is still owned, like overall ownership is like 5% right now, but his sales are his buy is going to be very high before deadline, and I think by that deadline he should be easily uh, owned by more than 60-70% people in the top 100K or so, and he will be captained heavily too, right? So I don't think you want to bet against that. Whether or not he delivers, that's another thing, but you at least want to cover your bases. So at least for game week 27, I think Weghorst is one of those bases that you want to cover. That's kind of your shield. So have him and then plan for the rest of your team and attack elsewhere. But I think you don't want, if especially if you're free hitting, you don't want to miss that chance. For non-free hitters, maybe you can ignore, but it still could be a risk. Maybe not as big of a risk because it's Burnley. They don't create a lot of chances. But yeah, Weghorst, and then I don't think anyone else from attack is targetable. Cornet is injured, so that possibility is gone. Rodriguez maybe, and as again on this chart, Rodriguez has better numbers in comparison to Weghorst, and today he had two very good chances. One was like a point 0.6 xg chance that he should have converted. And he looks involved in attacks. He looks more involved than Weghorst. Weghorst is more the ball holding guy, and Rodriguez is kind of making the run guy. So may not be the worst shout is if someone is brave enough to bet against Weghorst and go Rodriguez. I would not mind, to be honest. I think he's a decent shout. But again, minute risk probably. Weghorst is probably slightly more nailed. If Barnes is back, Rodriguez may sit out one match or something like that. But yeah, if you want to take the chance, I don't see any reason why not. Um, that's Burnley. Anything to add? Anything else to add on Burnley attack?
Um, yeah, one thing just as you mentioned, right, that for non-free hitters, especially like for free hitters, Weghorst is probably a no-brainer, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But for non-free hitters, if you only think of only one transfer and you're thinking, your team is in a good shape and you want to bring
Mm-hmm.
like attack the fixture and bring like Weghorst or anyone, yeah, it's all right. But if you want to take a hit to bring that, I would not suggest that, because again, if you take a hit, you bring him Weghorst, and again in 28 you have to again get rid of him, right? Because the fixture for Burnley is not good. Other like people has better fixture, so I don't think it's
Yeah,
worth it there. Except Pope, if you think Pope, you can bring him because it's a goalie, right? You can put it as second
holding.
if
Yeah,
you want. I mean, he's expensive,
bench him essentially. Yeah.
right? So that's the thing. If you're non-features, if your team is in fine, like if you do only one transfer, no hit, I think it's fine with Burnley. But if you think to take hit,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I would not probably do that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so some people may be kind of interested to transfer out Eduard, who kind of looks like a big minute risk right now in Crystal Palace attack. And some people might be tempted to get Dennis or King out. So if one of those you want to get rid of, and of course Watford has another double in 28, if I'm not wrong, correct?
Yeah,
So they are probably not the priority transfer outs, Dennis or King, but maybe Eduard. I know a lot of people are really frustrated with Eduard. Not the worst transfer. You target a double and then kind of see what happens in the next game. But yeah, otherwise, as Wrangler said, not long-term holds anyways. So you would want to transfer them out right away in 28 or 29, target the other doubles. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I just added two other players on this chart just for perspective. Zaha, they play against Burnley, and Mbeumo, Brentford, they play against Newcastle. And if it was like 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, would probably target those teams, Burnley defense and Newcastle defense. But both of them have solidified, right, over the last few games. Zaha did pretty well this game week, but again, I don't think I am personally convinced to go there. His numbers are decent, okay numbers overall, um, but I don't think I'm personally going there. And Brentford attack also without Tony, especially, they are kind of toothless. So I don't think I'm going for any Brentford attacker either. So like again, like few weeks ago when I was planning, Brentford Newcastle was actually one of the fixtures that I was trying to target on a non-free hit. I was thinking of moving from Gray to Mbeumo before I wildcarded and everything, right? But that option I think is gone unless uh, yeah, I just don't see anyone going there either, whether you are on free hit or non-free hit anymore. Newcastle is pretty good defensively now as well. All right, so yeah, so but that's at least we wanted to cover that target attackers for 27 and beyond for free hitters and non-free hitters, and I think it kind of covers the basis. And in the next slide, we are going to talk about probably one of the critical decisions for free hitters, especially this game week in game week 27, uh, is what Manchester City attackers to target or to transfer in, right? Uh, so from a stats standpoint, Mahrez and Sterling, they kind of lead all the goal threat stats, right? XG, big chances, short in boxes. They're pretty much the leaders in those stats out of the Man City attackers. And especially given that both Grealish and Jesus are injured, to some extent. Grealish may come back in a week or so. Uh, both of their places are, I would not say nailed. Of course, no one is nailed under Pep, but they are guaranteed to get some minutes, most of the minutes, if I can say. Both Mahrez and Sterling. And I think for free hitters, both of them, and when we talk about the template, we'll see that both of them are popular options for free hitters. Uh, as for Foden, he is kind of the darling of the APL community, and his numbers are decent. Again, nothing bad. It's probably with respect to any other team, he would get into your team. But when you're talking about Man City specifically, his numbers are not the greatest over the last few game weeks, especially over the last 5-6 games. So he has declined a little bit. Um, but again, Foden could be a very good shout, especially if you're stranded for budget. If you cannot get to a Sterling or a Mahrez, making sure that you're targeting all the other major targets for your free hit, then Foden is not the worst option. And I think he should start this game as well, especially given that Man City's UCL place is kind of secured, right? They won like 5-0 in their first leg, so they're pretty much through to the next round. So not a whole lot for Pep to decide on who he wants to play in the league match. And also Liverpool is kind of breathing fire on Man City's neck, right? So they're like 3 points behind now. So I'm pretty sure Pep would want to field his best team, most strong team in this game. De Bruyne is interesting. Again, we both of us had him, right? Hangler and I, and we captained him in game week 24. Was that or 25? I forgot. Um,
24.
yeah, so he was a decent option. He's still a decent option, but for his price at 12 million and the fact that he's not on penalties, kind of pulls me away from that. So I would not go there again, whether you are on a free hit or not. I don't think De Bruyne is the best option for you to target at this point of time. Rather would go for a Sterling or Mars over him. Mars has penalties too, so remember that. But yeah, De Bruyne is not as big of an option. Bernardo Silva, I transferred him out a couple weeks ago, and he scored like a brace in Champions League. Still, his underlying numbers are not good, and I again no point of going there. There are better options in the Man City midfield who you want to target. And as I said, Grealish and Jesus are not options because they are injured right now. Gundogan's numbers are good, and he had a pretty good match against Tottenham, um, although they lost. But again, he's a big minutes risk. You never know. He's not the first team choice for Pep right now, so there is a big chance that he might get dropped out of the first 11. One thing that ZD was, of course, talking about is Everton's weakness against the right side attackers, right? People that are playing on the right side. So Mahrez, in this particular case, if Mahrez doesn't play, Sterling may play there. I mean, City kind of plays a lot of different formations, but uh, pretty much everyone can play on the right. But Mahrez is probably the first priority attacker over there. And as we can see on the right, over the last few game weeks, Everton has always conceded from the right side. Armstrong with Southampton, Fraser with Newcastle, Buendia against with Aston Villa, and Ida with Norwich, right? So that kind of sounds like something that you would want to target. And when we talk about captains, we'll talk about Mars as well, at least briefly. But yeah, that's I think a very valid option to target for free hitters, and to some extent maybe for non-free hitters as well, but more for free hitters because you don't know about the paper roulette. But for this game week, you can probably predict. And as Luke from FF Scout, he did a video with the FPL Wire boys. He thinks that Bernardo and Diaz might be the two guys that drops off in this game, which is a brave call, to be honest. Bernardo hasn't missed any games at all, but he thinks that Gundogan plays because he had a good match against Tottenham. KDB plays, and then the front three, all of Mars, Sterling, and Foden play. That's his prediction. May or may not happen. We all know what can happen with Pep on a certain day. But yeah, so that's essentially what we wanted to talk about on the Man City attackers. So Mars and Sterling probably top priorities. Foden after that. Anything to add, Wrangler? ZD, I don't see you, but if you are around, you can chime in also.
No, I think yeah, you covered it pretty well. So yeah, like the Maharaj and Starling, that's also gonna be very popular whenever you if you free hit, right? And their statistics also saying, for him for them, like Foden's number is like like deteriorated it here in the last six gamings. But if you see the season, Foden is as
Still
good
very
as
good.
Starling as well, right?
Yep.
So again, as you mentioned, if the budget constraint is there, Foden could be a good pick, and let's hope. I mean, out of six, five will be playing, right? I
Mhm.
mean, because Grealish is not there and Jesus is not there. So let's just hope, like this five is Mahrez, Sterling, and Foden. I mean, those actually fall into that five. Let's hope for that. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the deadline this game week is on Friday, and Man City plays on Saturday. So if the match was on the deadline day, we probably could have gotten some news. But yeah, still look out for the pressers, see if you hear anything in addition to this. Would you transfer in a Man City attacker if you are not on a free hit this week?
Probably not. Probably not. I
Okay.
mean, it depends. Like if I didn't, then it's different thing, right? If I
Hmm.
play wildcard in 28, but if I would not, then I would do something different, like Son Kane, or who are like have double game weeks in 28 or 29. That's how I would navigate. So I would accept that. And I mean, I'm hoping like who are not free eating, they have at least two, at least one Man City, right? Like Cancelo is there, right? And could have been two. So
Great.
because I think they should have the coverage. I hope.
Okay, good discussion. Anything to add, ZD, on the Man City attackers? We spoke about the right side vulnerability of Everton. Anything else to add? Who are you targeting on your free hit?
I think it's pretty temporary. I think, in the fleet, Starling, Mares, and I'll keep Cancelo. So
Mhm.
I'm also targeting Sterling Mares.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's move on then. Just kind of out of the box discussion on the center backs, and we spoke about briefly on this topic in our last video as well. So this game week, of course, we're looking at the teams that are playing this week. And out of all the center backs, so we took out some of the guys like Cancelo and even Livramento, who gets into the box a lot of times as well. But kind of looking at how soon or how often, how frequently some of the center backs get into the box and get shots in box, and their opponents' XGC, right? So as we were saying, for Burnley, especially kind of not XGC, kind of free kick and set piece goals, corners, goals from corners. So as we saw last time, also Crystal Palace and Leicester are the two of the poorest teams in from that extent. And both Tarkowski and me are going to be very popular. Tarkowski was back today from COVID for their match in against Tottenham. So he is going to be highly targeted. Me scored a goal, so he is going to be highly targeted as well. From an underlying perspective, Tarkowski is slightly better than me, but again, these things are hard to predict. But I think on a free hit, you definitely want to have at least one of them. I don't think there is going to be any free hit team without either of them. And they'd also look pretty solid defensively. Crystal Palace away and Leicester home are not the best fixtures to be targeting for maybe clean sheets. But given the stats, given especially how poor Leicester and Crystal Palace are in defending set pieces, I just don't see how anyone can avoid or ignore either of Tarkovsky or me. So definitely get one of them. One thing that, of course, we were also talking about when we were talking about our teams, one option to go is without Cancelo, potentially, especially the guys who got rid of Cancelo. So we lost like 500,000 for on his price. So to get him back kind of probably makes you downgrade some of the other players that you want to target on your free hit. Laporte is not the worst shot. He's kind of in his own world on this chart, right? So he has had like 26 shots in box over the season. No one else is even anywhere near. So Laporte is not the worst shout. Question is whether he plays or not, right? I think he does, especially again given how close Liverpool is on the league table to Man City. If he does play, and again look out for the pressers or whatever news you can get, Laporte is not the worst replacement for a Cancelo. Again, Cancelo in his is in his own world too, very dangerous, very highly owned. So hard to go against that. But if you're absolutely stranded for budget, I love Laporte. So for especially on a free hit, I don't mind going there. As for the other defenders, not much to say. Of course, Sanchez is not even playing anymore for Tottenham. Big minute risk. I would not go there. Bednarek is kind of in the back of my mind. And again, they are playing Norwich, who are also pretty poor in defending set pieces. So I would not mind having a Bednarek over a Livramento potentially, right? Because Bednarek is more nailed, definitely plays. He has his place settled in that Southampton defense. Livramento is probably not as much anymore as he was like few months ago, especially after his injury. So I would not mind going for a Bednarek over a Livramento. But yeah, nothing much else to cover over here. Maguire, maybe he scored a goal last game week. Not the worst option against Watford. I personally probably would not go there, but yeah, that's about it. So just kind of wanted to touch on the Burnley defenders, Man City, whether you can afford to go to Laporte over Cancelo, and maybe a Bednarek over Livramento. Anything to add, guys?
One question I want to ask, so like for the
Mhm.
non-free hitters, right? So, do you see like for non-free hitters, any defense like can be a transfer here? Like if there is any like urgent transfer you would think, and if you have like say someone have very bad like defense line, okay,
Mhm.
for 27. So if they want to make any transfer, whom do you suggest? Like, is it gonna be like Wolves or is it gonna be Norwich? Sorry, Southampton. Like any
Yeah. For the longer term, probably Wolves. They play this week. They double in 28, right?
right, 20.
And then they don't blank in 30. So they have five fixtures in next four game weeks. So Wolves probably for the longer term, and even beyond 30, if you're not wildcarding or if you already have used your wildcard or whatever, they are good long-term holds. Wolves defense, and they are pretty solid defense as a team also. So Wolves probably, and maybe Burnley, if you can maybe bench them as like the fifth defender or something like that. If the rest of your team is in good shape, if you are either dead ending in 27 or something like that, probably one of Tarkovsky and me. I don't mind that. Again, because of the matchups, especially, right? Because they're playing against Leicester and Crystal Palace. I see a high likelihood of them scoring even more than probably like a Weghorst against those teams, right? It's very likely. So yeah, I would not mind either a Wolves defense or a Burnley defense for the non-free hitters. Anything to add, ZD?
No, I think it's all good. Yeah, probably Wolves is the target for the non-creator,
Mhm.
as they are not blanking and they have double.
Right. Alrighty, let's move on to the cheap strategy and the free hit drafts. Wrangler, you want to quickly talk about the cheap strategies?
Yeah, so basically, like those who already wildcarded, right, in 26, I think they're playing free hit in 27, right? And lots of other folks also who have two free hits in the hand, they are also probably playing, a lot of them. So, so far we have been talking about mostly free hits, right? That game week 27 is a very popular free hit week, right? Because we have a lot of blank and big teams blank, and like Burnley is doubling. But there are also some situations or some managers who are having some dilemmas, right? That whether to play free hit or not to play free hit, and if they don't play free hit, then how to navigate their transfer, right? Because there are some big double game weeks are coming there, and also game week 30 is blank, right? So that's why kind of we thought to talk about, like to help those people. At least I kind of we talk, and so that if people get some insights from there, and I mean based on the discussion. So I we feel like those managers probably categorized into five or six, and that's what we actually are putting here. So the first one is like somebody already probably played their first wild card before game week 25. So we played in 26, right? So like whoever actually did probably before that, right? 25. So that's the first, and they probably also finish like use their one of the feed as well, like game week 19 or whatever it is, right? Game week 19 was a very popular free week as well, right? So that's one of the category, right? Now they have only one free hit in their hand, and should they play free hit in 27, or they should wait? Like if they wait, then how when should they play, right? So that's one of the category. Another category is like again some of them again played the play already wild card, but they might have two free hits in their hand, right? So should they play free hit in I mean in 27? So that's another category, right? Um, and the third category, some as we are talking about, right? Some people probably are playing wildcard in 28 because it's gonna be very like big double, right? 28, 29, and then blank. So some people might play like wildcard, and they might have one free hit or two free hit, whatever it is. But should they play free hit here, right? So that's the another discussion. And the fourth and fifth one is basically you didn't play your free wildcard yet. You're planning to play your wildcard after 30 because you want to attack the fixture at that time, and you might have one free hit or you might have two free hits, right? So there are these categories, and some people also probably were planning to play free hit in 27 and again planning to wildcard again in 30, right? So those are a couple of the scenarios, right? Now the question is, if you have only one free hit chip in your hand, right? Do you I mean and also you already played wildcard, right? So do you play free hit in 27, right? So the thing is, first of all, you have to see that whether you have more than 8 players that you can play, that you can field, right? And also, I guess you have Liverpool and Arsenal. I mean, if you cannot field more than 8, that means you have at least 5 to 6 Liverpool and Arsenal player, right? That's the expectation, right? So if you cannot field more than 8, Liverpool and Arsenal, then probably it's worth of playing free hit. Probably it depends on the team as well. Like how I mean, what's your rest of the players? Are they good enough to cover, right? But if they're not covered, I think it's worth of playing free hit for those people. Okay, and even if you can field 10 to 11 players, right, without selling like Liverpool or Arsenal, right, still you have to see, right, the quality of your player, right? So if you think that okay, they're good enough, and you can skip the free hit, but then you have to navigate your transfer as well, right? Said like at least you might think we're talking, right, that Son and Kane, right? You might bring one of them if you didn't yet, and that's a
Mhm.
good transfer because if you skip the free hit 27, you're bringing Son or Kane, and who are also having good fixture in 29, 28, and 29. They're doubling, right? So that's a good transfer thought. So those like who can field 10 to 11, I think if your team is a good shape, you can probably skip the free hit. But whenever you do I think you're going to do the transfer, right? So just make sure that I mean you can do one or two hits, that's all right, that we are talking about, right? That the first probably Son or Kane, but then we're talking about the Wolves defense, right? So that probably is going to come with a hit, probably, right? And is it worth it to take that hit? Maybe. Like say if you have Sufal, we don't know he's going to play or not, and you are out of like the defense, right? You might not have defense.
Mhm.
So then do you take a hit? I think it's worth it because then you are bringing a Wolves defender who is going to have double and play 30 as well. So those are one of the way to move forward. Okay, so those are basically like either you play wildcard like after 30, or like you already played before 25. I think for those people, I think that's the suggestion. Now, if you play wildcard in 28, I'm assuming people are like a lot of people probably is going to dead ending their team. Okay, because 28 they want to reshape their team. So what they're going to do, like say probably they're going to sell Salah or like Trent. That's a lot of money which they can release and get probably I don't know Sterling or Son, Kane, whoever it is, right? Then they can attack 27, and again they're going to bring Salah back in 28. That's one way. Another way, excuse me, another way is you still free 27, right? And then you again play
Wildcard
28.
equity.
That's sorry, wildcard 28. That's another way to do it as well, right?
Yeah.
So one thing I would like to mention is here that game week 30 free hit is not probably a like a fancy anymore, right? Because people at that time were thinking that like it's a big blank, what should you do? But the team that are playing in 30, only 6 or 17, they are doubling in 28 and 29. We said several times, right? So if you already bring them in 28 and 29, you already have them, right? Say, right? So I don't think free hit 30 is not of a fancy. And even if you like can probably field like 6 players in game week 30, it's all right. You don't have to, because in any case there are not a lot of players over there, upside is less, so you can
Yeah.
avoid field 30. Okay, so I think 27 and 33 would be a very popular, and might be 36 as well, whoever already had the wild card, like us, right? But that is, I think, I would like to convey here. And if you already have 2 free hits, right, I mean, I think 27 is good. I mean, what are you going to do with this free hit, right? Because as I said, 30 is not going to be much fancy there, right?
Mhm.
And one thing also want to mention, like free hit 29, 19 was free hit 19 was very popular at that time, because there was no Salah or no Trent, right? Liverpool was blanking at that time, and you could release that money and get other big premiums. And it's the same situation
Yep.
here, almost same situation in 27. So yeah, that's kind of our, our thought here. I don't know whether you guys have anything to add, but
No, I think
that
you covered it well. But yeah, in summary, maybe if you have one free hit, then
right.
you kind of think about it, whether you kind of ponder over what your other cheap strategy is. Maybe there is bigger upside in playing the free hit in 33 or something like that over a 27, especially if your team is well set up with maybe 8 9 decent players, right? And again, as Wrangler said, quality of players over quantity of players most of the time. And But if you have both your free hits, then probably there is decent upside for 27, and you get to keep all your players that you had for 26 doubling with Liverpool and everything else, and then you get to attack 28 and 29 starting from there, right? So yeah, I think it's going to be very popular, especially amongst the like top 200 300 500k or the top managers essentially. Anything to add, ZD, on the chip strategy?
No, I think you guys covered it well.
Okay.
One thing also wanted to add, Kante, is that, like, a lot of people think that, what, I wanted to have at least like 20-point upside if I would like to play free hit. So I mean I think, what's more important here is, like, to, like, how basically for that week, right, whether you are able to getting, like, you are like getting able to like maximize your point, right? So that's very important, instead of, like,
Mhm.
like thinking about, oh, I need to have 20 points or so, right? So I think that's people need to think about too.
Yeah, another thing that I was thinking about when you were talking is like players like Trent, he has a lot of money tied to him, right? So even if you are dead ending, it's not an easy decision to get rid of him and then get him back in 28, right? So if you're not free hitting, and
Mhm.
we are already kind of in that situation with Cancelo this week, for
Thank you.
example, right? There's a lot of money invested in him. Salah probably easier because there's not much tied to him, but Trent is a very tough decision, even if you're dead ending, right? So those decisions, again, very much dependent on your team structure. But I think if you have only one free hit, 8 9 decent players take a hit here and there, set you up for 28 and 29, you should be okay without free hitting. It's not like a mandatory thing, absolutely not. But it's fun,
And
right? So if you want to be with the rest of the community, it's just kind of fun. Why not?
yeah, the suggestion again, I mean, definitely, if you take some hits, it's all right, but make sure, you take those players who will be in your team for a long run. It's not like, you take Burnley player, like one or two player this week, and then next week, oh my god, I have now 3 Burnley players, what to do? It's not like that. Okay, so
Hmm,
if you do the transfer, make sure you think long term.
correct. All right, so let's move on to the free hit drafts. The first one that Wrangler is going to talk about is basically all over Twitter, at least. Looks like 100% the exact same players in everyone's team. But let's talk about that first, and then we'll talk about a few other drafts in few different formations and kind of a little bit of different structure and why they might be better or worse, etc. But yeah, go ahead, Wrangler.
Yeah, so I mean, as already you mentioned, right? So this is gonna be kind of a, like, very much popular, or like kind of template-ish, free hit, like a team in 27. So here, like, we thought to, like, bring couple of formation, and couple of combination as well. But essentially, like more or less, all of them are mostly similar. Like you'll have triple up Man City, you'll have double up, like
Tottenham. Yeah.
Spurs, and then you have triple up Burnley. I think that 3-3-6 and 2-8, and plus one Man United, either Sancho or like Bruno. Those nine players are kind of fixed, and then Broha or whatever we bring,
Mhm.
right? So whatever, however we formulate our team, I think those will be kind of those players will be there most of the teams. Okay, now
Mhm.
depending on the budget, whoever you choose in Man City, right? So here is like wanted to show that 3-4-3 formation with Man City double attackers. So as we mentioned already, that Sterling and Mahrez, based on the stats and their recent form, they will be the like, very best, or the very highly owned um, players. And then Pope in the goalie, kind of a no-brainer, probably, unless you go for a double defense of Burnley, like me or Tarkowski. But if you go for only one of them, then I think Pope is a no-brainer here, right? And then Cancelo also will be there if you play only one City defense, right? We'll also talk if you have two City defense, how he's gonna be there. I think Bruno is gonna be there as well, right? And Kane, Son, as we mentioned, Weghorst will be there too, and Broha is a very cheap option, right? So for 3-4-3, I think as a third option, he's the best. Nobody can replace him, right? At 5.4, and then in the bench. You might have Dalo, you might have like KWP or whoever you bring. Make sure you bring at least one nailed player so that in case any of the players doesn't come up, especially for the Man City, then at least you get the coverage. So I think that's very important. And the point that we are showing here is all from FPL review prediction for the game week 27. As you guys know, I mean, you can actually check your. I mean, if you come up with any other draft, right? We highly encourage you also to check FPL review and see how does that come up. But whatever we so far formulated, like 5 4 draft, all of them on an average like 60 to 69 to 70 71 points we found out. So anything you want to cover here?
And I think we're good. Pretty much obvious choices, as you said. But yeah, very very template-ish. Even within a free hit, looks a template-ish free hit. And as you also mentioned, like the FPL review points are very similar for all the other formations too, because the number of players that are common in all those drafts, right? Like probably 7 to 8 players are common in no matter what formation you go to or no matter what structure you go to. So that's, but yeah, so let's move on to the next one. Just kind of briefly walk us
Ilya,
through
can
what's
you cover this? I would like to have a sip of water. So
yeah,
cover
sure.
it.
Yeah. All right. So in this one, essentially, we are talking about two Man City defenders, so Laporte and Cancelo, instead of two Man City attackers. And in that scenario, potentially, you can have a second Man United midfielder, which is Sancho. So basically, because Sancho is slightly more expensive or kind of in that region over Mahrez, so maybe you cannot cover for Sterling or so anymore. So maybe go to a Foden. But the highlight here is essentially going for a Man City double up in the defense, right? Laporte and Cancelo instead of Sterling and Mahrez in the middle. And again, that's a very valid strategy, especially given how solid Man City is at the back. Clean sheets are almost always guaranteed. Everton are not the worst attacking side, but they are not too promising either. So again, I mean, as long as you are confident that both Laporte and Cancelo are playing in this game to some extent, and as Wrangler said, you have at least some decent bench backup. It's a very valid strategy, and as you can see, the XP points are also very similar to the other template-ish formation, right? Other than that, all the other players are very similar. So essentially, the Man City boys and Sancho is the addition here. But yeah, anything to add else here, Wrangler?
No, I
Would
think you
you,
covered it.
would you prefer for this game week specifically? Would you prefer Man City mid or Man City defender double up?
Well, we actually don't know even the defense is also like nailed, right? Nowadays,
Yep.
actually, Man City's defense is actually even more rotated than the
Correct.
offense because we don't have Jesus or like Grealish, right? So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think a lot of people, and that's a good shout as you mentioned, right? A lot of people might think of double up in the Man City defense, and there he
Mhm.
can attack with man forward like Sancho and Fernandes, and that's a valid one too. But
Mm-hmm.
upside wise, I think they're almost pretty same. So,
Okay. All right. Let's go to the next one.
so yeah, here basically, like we previously showed 3-4-3, right? Now, if you have 3-5-2 formation, right? So in that case, the fifth mid, I think we didn't talk about WordPress in our attacking section, but
We
he's a
did.
good
Yeah.
shout too because he's on set pieces against Norwich, right? And he's nailed. So I
Mm-hmm.
think he might get better preference than Broha. So
Mm-hmm.
3-5-2 formation is a very good shout too, right? So you keep all of them other player that we mentioned for 3-4-3. It's just here you are replacing Broha uh, with WordPress, JWP. Otherwise, I think rest of them are almost similar, and that's a very good shout.
Yep.
So those
Absolutely.
are-
All right. Next one.
Next one is like that was this was requested by Pras. I think all of you already know him. So like he wanted to see that if you have like Man City triple attack, right? That's also a valid one, right? Because you
Mm-hmm.
don't know whoever is gonna come. So if you cover at least two, right, out of because Man City's points are like meets are points are very distributed, right? We know it pretty well. So if you have three attackers, I mean, you can expect that at least two of them might be get hopefully, like if it is, I mean, say it's not Gundogan or KDB, but like some Mahrez, Foden or Sterling. So it's gonna be like three Man City attackers, and then however you come, right? So now if you have three Man City attackers, then probably you cannot field
Bruno.
Bruno, right? Because your funds are already like heavily used for the Man City attackers. Then Sancho is a good shout there, right? So now if you see your five attackers, previously you were having WordPress, obviously you had Bruno there, but now you have Sancho and Son and rest of the three attackers, right? So this is a very good shout as well, but you don't have Cancelo here. Okay, so that's one of the trade-off there, right? That you,
Yep.
so I think it's a very good shout there too. And the good part is here, if you see your bench is actually strong. Broha is in your bench right now. You have Livramento. It's a good cover. So whenever you can release um, um, Cancelo, you can actually get a lot of money, and that's it's not a bad shout, right? I think Kante, you are saying that you might release Cancelo. Who knows? So
Yep.
that's one way
Yep.
to go too. There is nothing wrong and right, but just one of the way to go.
Yeah. Just one player we probably haven't spoken about much is Rashford. Would you think of Rashford over Sancho, especially given that if Ronaldo doesn't start, if
No,
Rangnick,
no. The given recent form of Sancho, right, against Leeds, I think he was highest in all of these like passes and assists and all the involvement, right? So
well,
I would.
Rashford is also when he plays, when he has got minute, his involvement is pretty much there
The thing
too.
is, like I
Kind
mean,
of an out of the box. But I know Sancho is more popular in the community. But especially, I mean, if Ronaldo plays, probably no. But if Rangnick says that Ronaldo is not going to play this weekend, there's a decent chance that Rashford plays up front, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, just kind of something to
Yeah,
think about
definitely.
for
Like
others.
Cavani is if Cavani is injured, so I
Yeah.
mean, if Ronaldo doesn't play, I think Ronaldo is gonna play. That's my hunch. Okay, but again, one thing is, I mean, I was telling you as well, right? That
Hmm.
free hitting is already a differential thing, right? So now you're doing differential inside differential,
Hmm.
right? So I don't know whether I would go for that. Okay, I don't know. ZD, do you have anything else to talk about Rashford over Sancho?
No, actually, given the form, it's a big risk, I guess, because uh, after I would, I mean, if I want to prefer, I need to prefer. I would prefer Bruno at first, then obviously Sancho. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I see your point, Kante, that he can play as a striker, but I mean, I think that's a little bit risk of going with Rashford. I think some
Hmm.
people took punt when they did double, but Rashford is not is still in touch, so I think uh, that's a big risk.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the last draft. You guys want to quickly talk about this one?
Right. So as per the FPL review, Ronaldo's actually predicted point is pretty high. If you see, even it's over Kane. Okay. But it's just like, we are thinking that whether Ronaldo is gonna play or not. And since Kane is more nailed and Kane's son is playing against Leeds, right? So
Mhm.
it's difficult to probably accommodate Ronaldo, right? That we mentioned, right? So that's why Ronaldo might not be a popular pick, but 4-3-3 option, this is a valid option too. And in that case, you will have Weghorst, uh, Kane and Ronaldo up front, and you don't have any Broha. In that case, fund wise, you may have to, like, probably sacrifice Sancho. Like, you cannot afford Bruno for sure, I think, right now. You can probably bring Mahrez over Sancho here, because both of them are at the same price range. In
Yeah.
that case, you can have two City attacks and one defense. But if you want to go for two City defense, then you can bring Sancho, right? So that's how it's gonna be. So Sancho and Mahrez is gonna be at the same price tag, right? So that's how it might be. But I don't think it's going to be very popular. But again, it's Ronaldo, right? And playing against Watford, who knows? He's also, last game against Leeds, he didn't have any return, right? So
Yeah.
who knows? He might turn up. So
Yeah,
yeah.
he's very highly rated as per FPL review, right? They're predicting him to score 6 plus points. And as Wrangler mentioned, he at least thinks that he is going to play. But just look out for the pressers. Ronaldo is not the worst shout. If again, Ronaldo and Bruno together will be very tough for Manchester to accommodate. But Ronaldo by himself is still in isolation is a good option. And I actually like this formation very much because it's a very balanced team, right? You don't have any obvious weakness anywhere. So I actually pretty much like this. Um, may not go there myself, but very very good shout this one. Uh,
And
but
the highest point here, actually, it's 71, right? If you guys followed, I
yeah,
think the highest point came out of this. There was one shout by FPL review, which was Zaha. We talked about it. Like, we are not very much, like, inclined to go towards him, but like, his FPL review is very much bullish on Zaha. So if anyone wants to
yeah,
come, he already had
yeah.
two goals today. So
Right.
that's
Yeah,
another.
I would honestly think about Zaha if they were not playing against Burnley. Burnley just looks solid, right? I mean, against whatever oppositions they played recently against, they defensively they look solid. So I don't think Crystal Palace is going to get a lot out of that match. They of course can score, but yeah, I don't think any of us would personally go there with Zaha. All right, so captaincy, and I think again, I mean, we have spoken about pretty much all of the players here that we have. So not a whole lot to add, but we were having this discussion amongst ourselves as well before we started the video. Uh, is it kind of that Dennis King scenario with the Watford doubling again, right? Weghorst is popular option. He is going to be popular for captaincy this week. Not still as highly owned as people think. People may seem to. I think his overall ownership is like only 5%. Maybe in the top 100k, top 200k, he's a little more owned. But he is going to be highly owned eventually by deadline, and he will be captained heavily as well. Um, so before we talk about the other options, what do you think of Weghorst in isolation as a doubler, as a captaincy option, Wrangler and ZD?
Do you want to talk about it first?
Uh, Honestly, I don't know. I mean, feels like as he's doubling, many people will captain him. I am still confused who to captain, but
Mm,
honestly, I don't prefer much for myself because I know that their opposition, Leicester and Crystal Palace, especially Leicester, is very porous. But again, as you said, Weghorst, I mean, he's like more like team player, and he scored one goal. So I'm a little bit confused. I'm actually more inclined to Spurs boys. Of course, Man City as well, but there is always a rotation risk. So most probably with the Spurs. But for Weghorst, he's a good shout actually. But I just don't feel confidence.
Wrangler?
So yeah, see, as you said, right? I mean, he's only 5% owned, right? And how many people are free eating? Right? I don't know, 30%, maybe, or maybe
Yeah.
less than that, right? So a lot of people might not have like Vegas, right? So
Yeah.
those people are probably gonna go with whatever they have now. People might have already Bruno. They'll probably go with Bruno, right? I don't think people are going to go with Mahrez. I mean, well, I mean, sorry. I mean, those who are not free hitting, right? I don't think they're going to bring Mahrez for these weeks.
Hmm.
They will not.
Yep.
Now, the only option or another option left is like Kane or Son because those are nailed. People might bring them in, even if you're not free hitting, you might bring them in because of, as I said, right? Or as we discussed, it's a long term pick, right? So I see that even if you're free eating, yes, Weghorst might be a like popular option. Those who are free eating, but those who are not free eating, and like say if you don't have Weghorst anymore in your team, say they might go with like either Bruno or maybe Son and Kane. That's my thought. Now since I am free eating, I think I'm gonna go with the double game week player, Weghorst. He's a forward, and he's like his next last game is against Leicester City, right? So I hope he might get a return. But if I don't go with him, my next choice will be Kane, and that's the two choices I'll have. I probably have either Kane or because I actually have Kane. I mean both. I'm gonna take Kane and Son, but I'm gonna take Kane as a second preference after Weghorst. So that's my thought. What's about yours?
Yeah, same thoughts. I'm with you guys. So of course, Weghorst is tempting, especially because of that Leicester fixture. Otherwise, any other double, I probably wouldn't even think about it. But that Leicester fixture kind of makes him tempting. Um, but yeah, I'm still confused. I don't know who I'm going to cap, either Weghorst or the Spurs boys, specifically Kane. Kane looks good. Kane looks sharp. Even today, he could have scored one against Burnley. And of course, their opponent is Leeds, as we were mentioning earlier as well. They have the worst XG conceded over the last 10 game weeks, and they just look super poor defensively. Like literally no defense. Like Junior Firpo on that right side, and even Dallas today on the sorry, Junior Firpo on the left side and Dallas on the right side. They both looked really poor. Like of course, Spurs is no Liverpool, but I still see them penetrating them. They and Leeds are not one of those sides that stays back either, right? They will attack, so they will leave a plenty of spaces behind the defense for
Yes.
Kane and Son to run. So again, Son is a decent option, but for captaincy, I always think of Kane better than Son because he's on penalties and he's just a better goal scorer, right? And he has a better chance of hauling, I would say, more than Son. So yeah, so definitely Kane over Son. So yeah, if I'm not going for Weghorst, I think I'm going for Kane, not Bruno, because again, I could be very wrong and Bruno can haul big because Watford looks more solid. Again, they conceded four against Crystal Palace. Sometimes the numbers can be deceiving. Crystal Palace only had an XG of one. They just scored the goals, right? They just happened to score the goals today. But their overall XG considered over the last 10 game weeks is like 1.2. So they're not that super poor side that they were under Ranieri defensively. Roy Hodgson, as we all know, he prefers a solid defense first of all. So yeah, that's the only reason that I don't like Bruno. He's in great form, as I was telling Wrangler and ZD before we started, that he seems like the Bruno that we were all captaining every week last season, right? He's very involved. He assisted the Elanga goal in UCL today too. So he's just always there, right? He's involved in every manu attack. So I would not be surprised if he hauls, but just because uh, Watford looks a little more solid in comparison to Leeds or even in comparison to Leicester, right? Leicester is the second worst team defensively over the last 10 weeks from a XG considered standpoint. Yeah, so Weghorst or Kane. Mahrez would be a very fun pick. I want to go there or wanted to go there at some point, but again, talking to everyone and kind of that uncertainty over minutes. Even if he starts, he comes off at 60th minute, or he starts from the bench, comes in for a 30-minute cameo. I yeah, I just don't see myself going with either Mahrez or any of the Man City boys. If someone has KDB, I won't on my free hit. If someone has KDB, maybe a decent option, but I think there are better options this week to cap over the Man City boys. But again, they can haul big. But as I think ZD were also saying, right, that their points already always get distributed. So even if you cap someone, someone else hauls, right? So you never know. So yeah, I think my final verdict is either Weghorst or Kane.
Yeah, but Maharaj again is a very good shout, like as DD showed right in his, like in that slide, that
Hmm.
the Everton's left side, that means like Maharaj where they're playing, they've been always very poor, and Maharaj also is on penalties, right? So if he plays at least 70 minutes, I think it's gonna be massacre. I think
Yep,
so definitely upside is there. It's just like the Pep Ruler thing, right? But I think it's a good shout.
absolutely. I don't think there is anything wrong. But this week captaincy is going to be well distributed as well. I don't think anyone is going to be over 100% EO for sure. There are going to be a lot of captains in and around 50, 60, 70, 80% EO or somewhere in that order. But yeah, it's a good week to, if you want to take a punt with your captaincy, not the worst week to do that. Of course, make a good judged decision, not just completely something arbitrary. Don't cap like a Broha or something like that. But yeah, any of these guys are a good shot. Okay. All right. We had Pope in there also, but I don't think we necessarily need to talk about him. But if someone is feeling adventurous, Pope or Burnley defense, but again, not over any of these guys, I would not go there. All right, so let's just finish with our team selections, and then this should be pretty quick this week as we all are on free hits, and I believe all of our free hits are active already. I activated it pretty much right after the game week started. Um, so my team right now is Pope in goal, Livramento, Cancelo, and Roberts. Roberts because I cannot afford me or Tarkowski right now. I'm zero point 0.3 or zero point 0.4 million short. Rest of it is exactly the exact same template that Wrangler showed as his first template. Mahrez, Fernandez, Sterling, Son, Broha, Weghorst, and Kane. Right now, I have my captaincy on Weghorst, but as we discussed, it may change. And if I do change, I'll go to Kane. But yeah, that's about it. Let's go to Wrangler, your team.
Yeah, it's I mean, like, structure-wise, it's very similar, 3-4-3. I actually want to go with either me or Tarkovsky. I don't want to go with Roberts. And as you can see, I have Foden because I cannot afford Starling. Okay, unless I sacrifice Cancelo. Okay, so it's very difficult for me. And again, I don't want to like go to Roberts, as I said. He's a very cheap option, but I want to take the advantage of Leicester City's, that set piece vulnerability,
Weakness.
right?
Mhm.
Like weakness. So yeah, I think it's very much similar to yours. It's just I have me instead of Peters. Sorry, Roberts, and I have like Livramento, KWP. I can bring any of them here. It might be also Man United. I don't know yet. I put Elanga here too. He's cheap. I could bring Ramsey, who is more nailed maybe, but I think it's all right. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Foden. I think. Okay. I have another. Now I'm thinking that if I could bring some fun, removing Pope, that BD was mentioning, right? We were talking before that having a like goalie from like Southampton, so like Foster, he's 4.4, so and then having double Burnley defense like me and Tarkosi, and that give me some fun to get Starling. So I will see if I can manage that. If I
Yep.
can do that, I might do that because I mean, as we discussed, right, that eventually I think it's all the same. I'm gonna have two double defense instead of Pope, right, from Burnley. So I might do that because I think that might really some fun for me.
Mhm.
Additionally, you are getting two bullet hitters.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Didi. That I didn't think of, but that's really like, good shout. I think if you don't want Pope, you can have two double Burnley
Yep.
defense. That's gonna give you some
You
fun.
save almost like a million over there, right? That you can
Yes,
use elsewhere.
that's very good.
Yeah, I mean, Pope became boring, right? So me and Tarkovsky could be fun.
Yep.
Yeah, and me was very good. Like me was very involved in all the
Oh
free
yeah.
kicks today. He had like an overall XG of zero point 0.5. He should have scored two actually. He scored one. He probably should have scored two.
And the miss that Rodriguez missed, right? Like his
Yeah,
that
that should
was
have
his
been an assist for me. Yeah,
yeah, that was a huge XG actually. He should have
yeah,
opened that, I would say. So
yeah.
yeah.
I think that's a very decent shout. Why not? All right. ZD, you want to talk about your team?
Yeah, so it's actually same as like first draft of Wranglers. I mean, basically our drafts are almost same. So in goalie Pope, in defense me Cancelo, Bednarek, and in midfield Fernandez, Mahrez, Son, Sterling. In striker Kane, Broha, and Oilhurst. Um, and also the like in the bench Amartey Ramsey. I mean, I am going to make some changes probably, but mostly from Bednari to Tarkovsky and Pope to Forster. But I'll take some time and think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Captain, I'm not sure yet, but most probably Kane, Son, or Weghorst. One of these. I'm not actually captaining any Burnley defender, although I am hopeful that they will get some return, but I'm not
Yeah,
taking
it's
that
hard to
much
bet
risk.
on them. Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think we're pretty much done. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we go? We covered a lot of things, not just free hit this week. There are common targets for free hitters and non-free hitters, of course, and spoke a little bit about beyond 27. One thing that we probably did not mention is that there is still a likelihood for a Chelsea Arsenal or a Chelsea Norwich double in 28. So look out for that. I don't think it's going to massively change people's plan for 27 at least. Whatever shape your team is in, people will probably just have to roll with it. So it might influence some people to wildcard in 28. But yeah, at least for 27, I don't see a lot of people changing their plans, even if that comes in right late Friday or something like that. But yeah, anything else to add, ZD or Angler?
I want to add again, just to remind or recapitulate three things that we discussed. First thing, that if you only have one free hit, it makes sense. You want to save one of them. In that case, make your transfer in a way that you can cover 28, 29, and 30.
Hmm.
So that's one thing. Second thing is, if you have two free hits, I think even if you can field 10 or 11 players, just look back and see the upside. And as we discussed, right, 330 is not probably fancy anymore. So 27, a lot of people are free hitting. So see if you have free hit, whether you can have upside, right? And
Hmm.
third thing again, I want to mention that not lot like all the people are free hitting, right? It's kind of a differential thing too, right? So you're already in differential position. Now, if you want to make a differential team, that's again differential inside differential, right? So I don't see a lot of upside there. So just think about it if you want to go out of the box, okay? Because I think again, if to have your call, right? So it's your choice, but again, I don't see much of upside there. So just wanted to convey
Yep.
these three things.
Yep. And just to remind everyone, the deadline this week is on Friday. So the Southampton Norwich match is on Friday afternoon for the US guys. So yeah, just be aware of that. Make sure that your team is ready by Friday. But other than that, thank you, Wrangler. Thank you, ZD, for talking with me today. Good discussion. Happy free hitting, and we'll meet before the game week 28 deadline.
Thank you. Thank you,
All
both
right.
of you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.